What's up YouTube, Laughing Pikachu here. So as many of you guys know, Pokemon has been putting a lot of effort into the artworks they put on the Pokemon TCG cards. For example, in previous sets such as Legendary Treasures, they sort of put like a story together between the Charmeleon and Swablu artworks. So in this picture, Charmeleon appears to be accidentally burning Swablu's wing, and then in Swablu's picture, Swablu is flying away angrily with a burnt wing. So I guess you can kind of say the two pictures are connected, telling a bit of like a mini story or something like that. Similarly, also from Legendary Treasures, the Tepig line is growing up and evolving into an Emboar, and as the Pokemon evolves, the family grows up with it. So it got me thinking, in Fates Collide, do they have similar stories? Are there hidden Easter eggs that we're might be missing out on? So I took a quick look at the set list and I closely examined some of the cards, and I noticed that in some of the artworks there's actually quite a few things that we might not have noticed at first glance. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys 10 interesting things in interesting Easter eggs and stuff like that I found about the Fates Collide set. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first card is a Professor Sycamore. Now this card has been found in a lot of previous sets. It's not like a really new card or anything, but one thing that I definitely did not notice for the longest time is that there's in fact a Sigilyph and a Petilil in the background of this card. So even though this card is a Professor Sycamore and not like a Sigilyph or a Petilil, it's interesting that these two Pokemon were still included in the background. Next up, let's talk about another trainer. So obviously, this is a new trainer to Fates Collide, but interestingly enough, there's actually a Roserade statue in the back that I totally didn't notice until, well, just now. Let's also talk about the Solosis card. So obviously there's Solosis right here, but in the background there's actually a Cloyster. I have no idea why they decided to do that, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Another interesting card is the Omastar. So obviously in the Omastar card you can see two different Omastars, but also there's a random street sign with a crossroad a crossroad thing. I don't know, it's weird. I definitely did not notice that in the beginning. I don't really know if it's an allusion to something else, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. I definitely did not notice that. It's very rare for the Pokemon world to reference real life things like crossroads and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Next up, let's talk about the secret rare cards. So obviously in a lot of the secret rare cards, they include the Pokemon, the main Pokemon. So for example, in the previous set Breakpoint, they included the secret rare Gyarados, the Gyarados and the secret rare Gyarados card, but in the previous set they also included a Greninja and stuff like that. And in this card, this is no exception. The Lugia and the Umbreon can also be found in this secret rare Alakazam card. I always think it's so interesting how even though it's a card focused on one Pokemon, they always tend to include other Pokemon as well. But yeah, Umbreon and Lugia are probably two of the most popular cards in this set, apart from Zygarde, so I'm not surprised at all that these cards are included in the secret rare. Next up, let's talk about the Rotom card. So at first glance, this just appears to be a regular Rotom with green stuff in the background, but if you look closely, there is actually a face. It's like a person, and it grows up and it grows into this girl who's holding a computer. I totally didn't notice that, but as I was examining the cards, I saw this face right here, and then I looked to the left and I saw these other two faces, and I had a heart attack almost. But yeah, I thought that's so cool. And also there's a Rotom right here as well. So I don't know, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's an allusion to some sort of story or something, but nonetheless I thought that was an interesting little Easter egg, I guess you could say. Next up, let's talk about the Alakazam card, or the Lucario card, should I say, with an Alakazam in the background. So as you can see, this is actually a Lucario, because you can see the Riolu right here. By the way, guys, some of these are Japanese cards, but they have the same artwork in English. It's just at the time of recording this video, all of the English leaks were not out at the time. But anyways, as you can see, there's actually an Alakazam in the background, which is totally random. I have no idea why they included it, but I think it looks really, really cool. And at first glance, it just sort of blends in with the background. When you actually take a minute and look at it, you actually notice the Alakazam, which is really, really cool. Next up, let's talk about the Minccino card. So, or is this Cinccino? I don't know. Anyways, this card, one of the main reasons I love it so much is because look at what it's holding. It's holding spoons, and on the table it has a bunch of spoons, which is an allusion or reference to the Alakazam, because Alakazam is always found holding spoons. Let's go to the previous Lucario picture. As you can see, it always has spoons associated with it, and so this here is a reference to Alakazam, because Alakazam is the main Pokemon in this set, and so since this card is in Fates Collide, obviously they wanted to include some sort of reference, and so I thought that was really interesting. I definitely would not have noticed that at first, just because, you know, the spoons, they represent a lot more than just spoons. They represent, like, Alakazam in a sense, which is really interesting. Next up, let's talk about the random receiver card. So this card, as you can see in the center, there is a Professor Sycamore, but one of the main reasons I included this in the set is not so much because the artwork is interesting, but because in a previous set, there was actually a Professor Juniper instead of, oh, this is a Professor Sycamore. I think I might have said Juniper accidentally. Anyways, this is a Professor Sycamore, and in the previous sets, I think this was from Dark Explorers, they had a Professor Juniper in the random receiver. So, I don't know what they're trying to hint at, but whatever, it's still interesting and cool. Alright, the final card that I want to talk about is this adorable, adorable Fennekin card. Does this artwork look interesting or familiar to any of you guys? Well, if so, you might be thinking about this card right here. This is the Chikorita card from the previous set, Breakpoint. And as you can see in this card, Chikorita seems to be looking through a portal and staring at a Fennekin, which is on some sort of in the city and stuff. Like, as you can see buildings and stuff like that. Well, if you look at this Fennekin card, they are in the city right now, running through the city. And so it's cool how Pokemon was able to connect cards from two different sets. So I think that's really cool. Hopefully you guys found these a little bit interesting. Hopefully at least one or two of the cards you didn't know about before. But yeah, thank you for watching, and if I missed out on any you know, Easter eggs or things that I might not have noticed in the artworks at first, feel free to share them down below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys!